Good morning. My name is Anthony Cross and I'm here with Tanisha Taylor. Today we're going to go over faculty postings in ROCS. So if you have any questions throughout the presentation, you can use your question feature and Tanisha can answer them by typing a response to you. We'll also take questions at the end that I'll answer. So throughout the presentation, if you have any questions, please use that question feature. The first thing I'm going to go over today, if you haven't seen it, is the ROCS blog. So at rocs.rutgers.edu, this blog has all information that pertains to ROCS. One of the most important areas of the ROCS blog, in the upper right, is the contact information of myself and Tanisha. So if you use this phone number or this email address, it rings to both myself and Tanisha's desks, and you can also use that email address and we both respond to that email. The ROCS blog also has posts, so if you scroll through it, any kind of updates we have to the system, any hints, any tips, they will be posted here. Anytime we have new training, it'll also be listed on the ROCS blog. At the top of the blog in the navigation bar, we also have online training. So when you click on online training and you click online training guides, you can see there's training for each area of the system. What we're focusing on today is at the bottom. So we have 3 guides currently for faculty postings. The first guide is how you create a posting. Basically, it's a step-by-step guide. It's what I'm going to go over today. We also have the applicant review for the faculty workflow. And lastly, we have a posting quick step guide. So the quick step differs from the faculty posting guide because it's just step-by-steps and there's no pictures. We're also recording the session today, so we'll put it up on here once we complete that. If you want to log into the system, we recommend going to the ROCS blog, and up in the navigation bar, we have the ROCS Administrator Login. So up here, if you click on ROCS Admin Login, it takes you right into the system. So if you haven't seen ROCS, if you haven't used it yet, this is what the system looks like. Today, we're just going to focus on the faculty piece. So one area you always want to go to when you log into the system is in the upper right. Next to current group, you'll have your name. But if you click on this drop down, you want to make sure any role you should have in the system should be located up here. If you currently don't see a role, or if you need a role assigned to you, you can reach out to myself or Tanisha, and we can set you up with access in the system. Faculty is similar to staff. The roles are the same. So on the departmental side, there are 4 roles. We have the initiator, -faculty, authorizer 1, -faculty, budget, and the authorizer 2 faculty. So the only role that's similar from the staff side is budget. But if you need authorizer 1, initiator, or authorizer 2 on the faculty side, you need to be granted that access. Those roles are different than from on the staff side. Also, with setting up the process and the flow, it's up to your school or up to your department. UHR isn't involved in the faculty workflow. They're not going in. They're not approving anything. So if you want to set it up, if you just want to have an authorizer 1 and an authorizer 2, that's up to you. If you want to have initiator, authorizer 1, budget, and authorizer 2, you may also go with that route as well. The different thing about faculty is the authorizer 2 in your school or your department is the end role in the system where that role controls closing, posting, and filling a job. So if you want to post something, if you want to fill it, if you want to close it, it all goes through that authorizer 2 role. So UHR isn't involved at all. For this example, I'm going to click on the authorizer 1 faculty role. So once you click into that role, it automatically logs you into that group. So at the top, you always get a status bar when you do an action in the system, and it is telling me you are now viewing the system as a member of the authorizer 1 faculty group. So when I'm in that group, you can see I have an option up here that says postings. Since my role currently is authorizer 1 -faculty, I only have access to the faculty position type. So when I toggle over postings and I click on faculty, it's going to navigate me to a new page. This new page contains a table of all my current postings. So you can see I have a bunch of professors and tests. But anything that's currently in a draft state, post it with the authorizer 1, with budget. It'll all be in this table. So you can see all your current postings, how many active applicants there are. And since this is the training site, there's no active applicants. Anytime you want to create a brand new posting, if you're an initiator or an authorizer 1, you want to look to the upper right in the system. In the upper right, there's an orange button labeled Create New Posting. So when I click on Create New Posting, a new window will pop up. With this window, I get 3 options. I have create from position type, create from classification, or create from posting. 90% of the time, you're going to go with this first option, the create from position type. This first option, create from position type, means you're creating a brand new posting. You're going to put in all new data. It's going to be brand new from scratch. You never want to use create from classification because in ROCS, we didn't store any of the faculty classifications in the system, so you never want to go with this second option. And lastly, we have an option that says create from posting. If you want to clone one of your existing postings that you have approved or posted, you can do that. So if you select this last option, it'll clone all that data from one of your previously approved postings, and you can edit it or alter it to reflect the new information on this new posting. So in this case, let's say we have a brand new request. We want to start from scratch. I'm going to click on create from position type. When I click on create from position type, the first page I get is the cover page of this request. So the first field we have to fill out is the recruitment/posting title. So for this, I'm just going to type in professor. Let's put test 2. So this title, this posting title, this is what the applicant is going to see when they click on the Rutgers job board. So this is the title that they see when they go through all the jobs that are posted. This is what they will see. You can edit this title throughout the life cycle of the request. So whatever you type in here, it's not locked in. You can always change it, or the authorizer 2 can change it, or the authorizer 1 can change it. The next area is your organizational unit. For this case, I'm in as the Cancer Institute of New Jersey, or CINJ. So this auto defaults based on the org code or the Z-org you're assigned to. So if you're assigned to more than one org code or Z-org, you will see them all in the second drop-down. Say you're just in admin and plan, these would automatically be defaulted. So if your user group is only associated with one Z-org or one org code, these options will be automatically selected for you. However, like I said earlier, if you have more than one Z-org or more than one org code, you'll have the option to use these drop-downs to select where it should fall in the organization. The next section is the applicant workflow. So applicant workflow, there's only one option in this drop-down. This is just saying when someone applies to your posting, this is the state they enter the system in. So they'll always be in under review by search committee. The next area is the references area. So UHR is recommending that you don't use this feature. However, it is up to you if you want to use it. A quick explanation of the reference feature is when someone applies to your position, they can provide a number of references. They list their name, their email address, and their phone number. Once they apply in the system, it sends an email out to that reference provider, and that reference provider has the opportunity to submit a reference on behalf of the applicant. The thing is, they can't attach a letter. They just get a block to type in text. So basically, they could type a couple paragraphs, but it's not technically a letter. We have another area in the system where we recommend using that, and it's in the applicant documents. However, if you want to use this area, there's a couple options. So the first one is the reference notification. If you want every reference or every applicant to get a reference, you would use this state. However, say you only want individuals that are moved to candidate interview approved or initial interview. Once you move that applicant to this state in the system, that's when those references will go out to the reference providers, so they get notified only at this state. The next section is recommendation workflow. So if the individual gets references from all their individuals, you can have the system automatically move them. I would recommend always leaving this area blank. And then the last type here is online applications. So when you're looking at online applications, you always want to leave this to being checked. If you on-click that box, that means individuals who apply to your position won't be able to apply in the system. So I doubt there's ever going to be a case where you want to unclick that. But if you ever do, you can provide them with instructions on how to apply. Please send your documents or your application to this email address. But like I said, you always want to leave this checked. Once you complete your cover page, you want to click on the orange Create New Posting button. Once you click on that button, it's going to load a series of tabs. You have to complete these tabs before you get to your summary page. So the first tab you have are the position details. You can see right here, it says position details at the top. The first section of the position details tab is payroll designation. So depending on which payroll system the individual is going to go into on your posting, you have two options, Banner or PeopleSoft. When we all integrate over to PeopleSoft, there will only be one option here. Like I said, that title pulled in over from the position information, that cover page, the title can always be changed throughout the life cycle of the request. So I can make any changes I want. I can add some text. I can delete some text. It's up to you. The next field is the salary field. So you have three choices here. Is it open, commensurate with experience, or salary per credit? You can also notice that there are fields that are highlighted in red. They have a red border. These fields are required in order for you to move this request onto the next approver. So just make a note in your head when you're going through a request, you want to make sure you're hitting every field that is highlighted in red. The posting summary, this area is where you can provide a paragraph or two that talks about this position. This individual will be teaching this, or they'll be doing this research. For now, since this is a test, I'm just going to put test in here, but you want to use this as your marketing piece for your position. So when an individual or when applicants are going through your job, this is that first paragraph they're going to see associated with this position. Initiator role or state, if I start typing in my name here, you'll see your name will automatically populate. If you click on it, it assigns you to this initiator field. You can also have more than one person in this field. Say you know you're going to go on a vacation, or you want another individual helping you with this request, you can type in their name and you can click on it as well, and you will both show up in this field. The next field is very important because it designates the applicant reviewers to this posting. For this field, you can note that it's just like the initiator. When you start typing in an individual's name, you can see they show up in a drop-down list. So if you want to assign an applicant reviewer, you click on it just like the initiator. The things with applicant reviewers are, these are the individuals, when they log into the system, they have the right to view the applicant pool. However, they can also move the applicants in the workflow. So on the faculty side of things, the applicant reviewer is a very important role because they designate which individuals are being interviewed or which individuals are being kicked out of the applicant pool and not being interviewed. They also control the initial interview state, the finalist state, and I'm going to go over that later on in this presentation. But just remember, the applicant reviewers have the ability to take action on specific applicants. You can also note that there can be more than one applicant reviewer. So if you click on their name, you can have 2, 3, 4. Just make a note with applicant reviewers, they should be communicating with each other, because if one individual dispositions a candidate and kicks them out of the applicant pool, the other individual will not see them anymore. So you just want to make sure the applicant reviewers are a team and they're working together when they're going through a pool. The next section is the qualifications. So this area is to build out information for this posting. The first field we have are the minimum education and experience required for this position. I'm going to use tests here just to move forward, but here you can list if a bachelor is required, if you require a master's, a PhD, any kind of skill sets or experience. We also have required knowledge, skills, and abilities. You may also use this area to build out any information, so any specific knowledge, skills, abilities, or licenses that this individual should have when applying to this position. You may also use equipment utilized, and you can make a note that not all of these fields are required, so you may bypass them. However, the more information you put into a posting, the better. It gives more information to the applicants. So with equipment utilized, if they're using specific research equipment or specific programming languages, you can build that out here. We also have physical demands and work environments. If you want to describe that, you may. If not, you could skip over this field. The last two sections here is an overview field and a statement field. The overview field can be used to build out information either about Rutgers University or your specific school. You could put in some research your school may be doing. You could put a link to your school. This just gives the applicant a better feel for your school. They can click on the link and see specifics about it. We also have a statement field. So if your department or school has a specific vision or mission statement, you can list it here. It is up to you. The next section goes into the posting details. So the first section here asks, have you requested a waiver of posting, which has three options: yes, no, or a waiver is not required. If you click yes here, because there's a waiver and you know the individual for the posting already, you just initial here saying you have that waiver. Posting number will be generated. So once this position moves forward, this request moves forward to the next approver, every posting gets its own unique number. The next field, posting open date and the posting close date. So these two fields, if you don't want the system to automatically post your jobs, you want to leave these fields blank. So if you leave these two fields blank, that means the authorizer 2 is going to be tasked with closing, opening, and filling the posting. However, say you want this posting to open on July 11th. You put this date. Once this posting is moved forward and approved, it'll post open on that date. However, if you want the authorizer 2 to post it immediately, you could just leave this field blank. The same thing with the close date. If you set this posting to close, say, on the 22nd, which is a Friday, when the system hits that date, this posting will automatically be closed. However, like I said, if you leave these two fields blank, it's up to the authorizer 2 to open and close it. So it's up to you how you want to handle it. The next field are special instructions to the applicants. So whatever information you put in this field, at the top of your request or your posting will be a black bordered box, and any information you type in here will be at the top of your posting. So this is the first kind of text that your applicant's going to see. You can use this to build out information that you want to give to the applicants when they're applying to your job. We've had some trainings where we see schools using this saying, please provide your reference letters to this email if you have a school or a department email. Or if you want them to upload a specific document, license, any kind of, if they have a website, you can put that information up here. So any instructions you want to give to the applicants. The next section is a quick link to your posting. So this link, if you click on that, it moves you directly into the posting. So say you want to advertise with the Chronicle of Higher Education or mathjobs.com or another job board, you can use those advertisement sites, but just make sure you use this link if you're using ROCS. What this will do is when someone or an applicant sees your advertisement on the Chronicle or they see it on MathJobs or another job board, all your applicants will be siphoned and filtered to one job site. So you'll be able to see all your applicants in one location. So just remember, if you're using ROCS, you'll always get this unique link, and you can share this link with other individuals, with other schools, with other job boards. The next field is campus. So there's 4 options, either North, Camden, New Brunswick, or RBHS. So I'm going to click New Brunswick as an example. And then it builds it out just a little bit more specifically. Say it's on College Ave on the New Brunswick campus. This post to HERC section is a little check mark. So that's saying all of our jobs through ROCS are also posted to HERC, Indeed, and higher ed jobs. So you always want to leave this checked. If you want to click this, HERC will not grab this posting. Job category for all faculty positions, we're always going to go with the first category, academic/faculty. The reason we're saying this is when an individual comes to our job site and they click on the job category sort and they click academic/faculty, they'll all see Rutgers University's faculty positions or academic positions. The last 3 fields are just references. They don't feed into any other system. What it's asking is a background check yes, no, or not available? Same thing with medical clearance, same 3 options. And lastly, liability claim clearance, the same 3 options. The last paragraph is our equal employment opportunity statement. You can't change this. This appears on all of our postings at the university. Once you hit this orange next button, everything you filled out on that page is saved. So this becomes a saved record. You'll also get a banner at the top saying the posting was successfully updated. The next section is completely up to your school or your department. Some schools are not using the budget information area. With the budget information area, it's not feeding into any other system. It is purely a reference area in the system. So if you're not using this and you want to skip over it, as the initiator, you just hit next and you move on to the next section. However, if your school wants to use the budget summary entry area, you simply click on the blue Add Budget Summary Entry button. When I click on this button, this is what we call a buildable field in the system. It generates a couple fields, and we can put in the data here. So the first one is the account or index number for the budget information section. For the banner side, we also have a fund number. We also have percent funded. So let's say there are 2 funding sources for this posting. If I click on this Add Budget Information Entry again, it mimics the same fields up here, and it gives me an opportunity to type in a second account or index number. You also see for the banner side, we have position number, and if there's a maximum amount associated with this account, you can label this here. And lastly, we have a salary component for banner, academic base, patient services, or faculty practice. If you hit this blue button by accident, Please note there are two required fields here. So if you have no information to put in here, but you have these fields, you have to make sure to click on Remove Entry before clicking on Next. With Remove Entry, it deletes any of the fields above the Remove Entry button. So once you completed this information, you click Next, and you move on to the next section. The reference letter section correlates to that cover page where we set up the reference letters. So this is where we're recommending. These links can be a little wonky when they go out and sometimes they don't work, but if you want to use them, you may. Right here, this is where it's asking, do you want to use this feature? Yes or no. If you click yes, you have a couple more options to fill out below. The first field is the reference provider special instructions. So each individual who is listed as a reference provider will receive an email. Any data you type in this field will appear in that email to give them instructions. You may also set if there's a minimum or a maximum amount of references that you want to be collected per applicant. And if you want to set a cutoff date, you may also put that here. So once you hit next, it saves any information you put in to the reference letters. The next field is similar on the staff side. It's the posting specific questions. So with this area, you can ask your applicants a question based on experience, based on skill, based on teaching, and you could put it into your posting, and every applicant will have to answer it before they can apply to your posting. In the upper right, there's an orange button that says Add a Question. When I click on Add a Question, it gives me the database of all the questions that have been approved. If you have any questions that you may have preset or that you used in the past and that you want approved, you can reach out to either myself or Tanisha, and we can put them in the system. You can see here we can build out categories. So we're going to start a faculty category, and any questions for the faculty postings will appear there. But just as an example for this situation, you can see all the questions here. If you click on the question, you can see if it's multiple choice or if it's open-ended. If you want to add a specific question, you click on this Add checkmark, and at the bottom, there's a button that says Submit. So once I click on Submit, you're going to see right here, it puts this question into my posting. There's a couple options you can play around with. The first one is Required. If you click on this, all applicants must answer this question before they can submit their application to the posting. We also have options when you click on the question. When it's multiple choice, you can assign point values to the answers. So say anyone who answered 8+ years of experience, they'll get 10 points. Anyone with 5 to 8 years will get 8 points. 2 to 4 years will get 4, and 0 to 1 will get 1. The reason you could set this up is when you have your applicant pool, you can sort how people answered. So say you have 2 or 3 questions and you want people to answer in a specific way. Anyone with the highest amount of points will then be sorted to the top of your applicant pool, and those will be your top qualified individuals. You may also use disqualifying aspects. So say you click disqualifying next to the answer bank of 0 to 1. Anyone who answers 0 to 1 will be disqualified automatically out of the posting. They'll still exist in the back end, but they will not show up as an active applicant when your search committee, your applicant reviewer is going through your posting. Once you hit next, any questions you may have added or any options you set up will now be saved, and you get to the posting documents. So the posting documents, these are documents that the school or department wants associated with the request. So this is not what the applicants are going to be uploading. This is what the department will upload and will be associated with this request. So the two in the training site we have are hiring plan and waiver. I know there are more in the live site. I believe Seb sent us one that they wanted us to add. So if you have a unique document type that you want us to add to this area of the system, please reach out to myself or Tanisha and we can add them in the system. So basically what you're doing here is say you have a hiring plan associated with this posting. If you toggle over actions, you'll have the opportunity to click on Upload New. This will search your computer and you could upload any documents to this request. It converts it to a PDF. So any document you have here, if you want to come back to this posting in the future, these documents will always be associated with it. So like I said, if you have any document types you want us to add, please let us know and we'll put them into the live site of the system. The next section is all the document types that we currently have for the applicants to upload. So for example, we have 3 columns. Not used means they will not be required for the applicant to upload. Optional, and then required. So say I require the resume, and I want it optional as a teaching philosophy. All of my applicants for this posting will have to attach a resume. However, they may attach a teaching philosophy, but they could also skip it. You can see we have writing sample, CV, unofficial transcripts, and just like the previous tab, we can add document types here that the applicants can upload. We also have list of references, so if you don't want to use the reference feature, you can make this optional or required, so when an applicant goes through, they can just upload a Word document of the list of the references, or if they have any reference letters, you may also use this as optional, and they can upload it to their posting. We also recommend always making other documents optional, just in case an applicant has something unique that they might want to upload to show the search committee or the applicant reviewer. So if you set this as optional, it gives them an area to upload any kind of documents that you may not require, but they might have want to share with the posting committee. Once you hit next, all the options you save there will be set to this posting, and we get to guest user. Guest user, this is reserved for individuals who do not have a net ID. So if you have someone outside the university who needs to view this applicant pool, you can simply click on Create Guest User Account. What this does is it generates two credentials, a username and a password for this specific posting. So right here, you can list email address of individuals who need to review the applicant pool, and you would hit Update Guest User Recipient List. Once you hit Update, the individuals in this area will receive an email with instructions on how to log in with this username and this password. Guest users have view-only access, so they can see the applicant pool and their documents, but they can't move them or disqualify anyone. This is very similar to the next area, which is search committee. So search committee members, these are all individuals who have a net ID at Rutgers. So for example, I'll use my last name. If I click search here, what it's going to do is it'll yield in search results with anyone who has cross within their last name, not just cross. So right here you can see I have myself as the first response. With searching for search committee members, I recommend always going with last name unless their first name is unique, because if I typed in Anthony here as well and hit search, it yields in everyone with Anthony's first name and cross in their last name, so the search results will be a lot broader. Anytime you want to add a member, you simply click on the Add Member blue button. If the individual is going to be the chair of the search committee, and I'll explain what the difference is between a chair and a normal member after this, you would click Add Member, and up at the top, you'll see the name of the person, if they're the chair, and their status in the system. So if I add another member without clicking Make Committee Chair, you'll see it says no under the chair column. If you add someone by accident and you need to make them the chair, you simply click Actions, and you can click on Make Committee Chair. So here is where you set up individuals who will go into the system. They'll see the posting, the applicants, but please remember also search committee members cannot take action upon the applicant pool. They can only view, they can see the documents that they attached, but they can't disqualify or move anyone further. So if the chair needs to do that, just make them the applicant reviewer as well. And one more thing that the search committee chair gets when they're assigned that is they have access to view the responses to the evaluative criteria. So this is very similar to the supplemental questions. At the top, there's an orange button that says Add a Criterion. When I click on this, right now we have two examples in the system. If you want something added, please just let us know. But the example I like to use in training is provide a rank of the applicant on a scale of 1, not qualified, to 5, qualified and should be interviewed. So when I click on this and I add it to the system, you can see I get some options. Possible answers are the 1 through 5, but you can also set when these questions should be asked about the applicants. If you want every applicant or every search committee member to answer this about every applicant, you always want to leave it under review by search committee. That means they'll rate every applicant that applies to this posting. However, if you want to limit it and just have them do this for candidates who get moved to the initial interview state by the applicant reviewer, this then opens up this question on those specific applicants. So say 5 individuals or 5 applicants are moved to initial interview, that's when the search committee can go in and answer this question about those 5 specific applicants. So when I hit submit, it's just like the supplemental questions. You'll see your question here. So this is just saying every time a search committee member goes in, they can click on an applicant and they can rank them on a scale of 1 to 5 and leave any comment. So they also get a little box to provide any open-ended comments about each applicant. And the thing is, only the search committee chair can see how the rest of the chair answered. So if the whole chair or the whole search committee needs to see how each other answered, you just make everyone the chair so they can see all the answers of all the other search committee members. But if you just want one individual see how the other search committee members are answering, you make them the chair. So when you set up your search evaluative criteria and you're finished, you hit next. At the top, you'll get your posting was successfully updated, and we are now on the summary page of our request, which is very similar to the staff side. And if you're an authorizer too, this is the page you're going to see in most cases when you log into the system. So right here, we have the title that we entered. The current status says draft. That means I created it, but I haven't moved it forward yet. It's still in my queue. You have your department that it's associated with, and then you have the created and the owner. So this is saying I created this, but I'm currently still the owner because I haven't moved it forward. As the owner, I'm the person who can still make edits, and I'm the person who can move it forward. Once I lose the ownership of a request, I can no longer edit it, and I can no longer take action upon the request. When you scroll through your summary page, every tab that you filled out will now be listed here. You want to make sure every section has a green check mark next to it. This means you have completed all the required fields in the system. If there wasn't a red exclamation point, that means you missed one of the required fields. So if I would click this edit, at the top of the system would be a bar, and it would specify what specific field that I missed. So I'm going to show you, I'm going to scroll through this request. The second section, or that second tab, was the budget information. I have my green check mark, and you can see when you go through the request, it'll be all green check marks. Any section that you want to go into specifically and edit, if I click edit next to applicant documents, it'll bring me directly into that section. So when I click on edit, you can see I go right to that area. You can use these tabs to navigate. However, remember, before you use these tabs, you always want to click save, because if you move something here and you use a tab, these tabs don't save it. Only these three buttons save in the system. So if I want to jump right back to my summary page, I click on summary because I didn't do anything, therefore I don't have to save, and I'm back on my summary page. We also have the history tab. So anytime an action occurs on this request, it'll be line itemed in the history tab. So when I go into the history tab, it's going to say that I created this request as the authorizer 1, right over here, on this date and this time. So once I move this forward, it'll say I moved it forward to Tanisha Taylor as the authorizer 2. You can also notice here, if you want to make any notes about a specific case, you can add a note in the history tab, and it'll always be saved in that history tab. So I'm going to go back over to the summary, and at the top I have my take action on posting, this orange button. Depending on what group or what role you're in the system will determine what actions you have here. So since I'm in as the authorizer 1, if I got this sent to this request by an initiator, I can move it back to them. They'll be notified via email, but then they could go in and they're the owner again and they can make changes. However, if I want to move this forward, I have budget and authorizer 2. Since my area doesn't have a budget area, or I don't want to use budget, I could skip over this, but you can see here, if I click on this, there should be individuals' names in this drop down. So say you're a smaller department or a smaller school and you want to move straight to the authorizer 2. If I click on that, you'll see there's a drop down with my name and Tanisha's name. You always want to make sure when you're moving a request, whether it's on staff or faculty or the temporary position type, there's always a name in this drop down. This name here is assigning this case to that individual. They become the new owner. This is also determining who receives that automated email. So once I hit submit here, Tanisha will receive an email with the posting name, the posting number, and a link to the posting saying that she'll go in and now take action upon it. You could write any comments, so please review and post, and then add this posting to your watch list. So in the upper right of your system, there's a watch list area. If you want to log in, this is a one-stop shop for all your postings, your position requests, so you can see anything currently posted or pending, and it's just a one-click stop to see everything that you have. So I recommend always leaving this checked because it puts it all in one location, all the requests you're working on. So once I hit submit, the system will process it, and you always want to note at the top, it's very important, you have a blue bar. If this is red, it'll tell you why it wasn't transitioned, but since it's blue, it's saying the posting was successfully transitioned and it was added to my watch list. Now you can see that the current status is authorizer 2, and the owner is now Tanisha Taylor. With her being the owner, you can see I can no longer make edits next to my sections. I lose that capability, and I can no longer move it. So please note when you go into the system and you're looking at your requests, and if you want to make an edit, if you're not seeing the edit button or the orange button, just look at who the owner is, and they just have to send it back to you, and then you'll regain ownership again, and you can make any changes you need to. When I go back into the History tab, you can see Authorizer 2, that's who I moved it to, and you can see that note I put in that comment section, it's also saved in the History area. So anytime you put a comment in that box, it's not a private message between you and the next approver. It gets saved as a record in the History tab. So once this moves forward to the Authorizer 2, that individual controls posting it. So they have a bunch of options. They could post it, they could close it, and they could fill it. So you want to remember when you're setting up the roles and the access for your school or your department, the Authorizer 2 is that individual who can post this job to the public, they can close it from the public, and they can move it to filled once complete. The next thing I go over before we start taking some questions is this is one of the documents we have on the blog. This goes over the applicant workflow in the system. So if you go into the blog, it's called Application Workflow on the faculty side. Here you can see we have a table, and the first column is the applicant state. So you can see right here, every time an individual applies to a posting, they go in as under review by search committee. The last column explains which role in ROCS actually owns this state. So the responsible role is the individual who can take these actions in the middle when the applicant is in that state. And you can note right here by looking at the overview, the applicant reviewer owns the majority of these roles. So when an individual applies and they're under review by search committee, there are two options to disqualify an individual. These first two options say the search committee determines the applicant did not meet the minimum qualifications, but there are two options. We have email now as the first one. If you select email now for an applicant, that individual receives an email, the rejection email, right away. So they won't sit out there, they'll get it, and they'll be notified instantly. However, if you don't want that person to receive an email instantly, we have another option, which is email after the posting is moved to the filled state. So any individual who goes into the filled state option when they're disqualified, when the Authorizer 2 moves a posting to filled, that's when all these emails will be generated to that pool of individuals. Lastly, the applicant reviewer has EEO review for interview. So this is replacing the attachment H. Anyone you want to interview, it goes up to EEO, OE, and UHR, and they just look at the demographic information, they do a statistical analysis, and they approve the interview. So the next state you can see is EEO review for interview. It's owned by EEO. The departments and the schools don't have to worry about this. This occurs in OEE. Any applicant reviewer, once they approve the interview, they will be notified. You do receive an email saying this individual, this pool has been approved. It's not a long wait time. It normally takes 24 hours, sometimes a little bit less. So after EEO approves it and the applicant reviewer gets that email, you can see they own all these states. So we have candidate interview approved, and from there it moves to initial interview, to on-campus interview, to finalist. And you can see here with each state, you can always disqualify the individuals, saying we're no longer interested, email them now, or email when the posting is filled. But the last state, the bold state, is what moves them forward. So from the approved interview state, they go to the initial interview. From initial interview, they could either be not interested any longer, or they can move to on-campus interview, which is the second to last state. So when an individual is on the on-campus interview state, the last move they could go into is finalist. From finalist, there are two states the applicant reviewer can move the candidate into. Say the individual, they decline the offer. Once you click on that, there's a couple options which explain why the offer was declined, or you can move them to hired. Once an applicant moves into the hired state, that is when that Authorizer 2 can move the posting to filled. So in order for a posting to move to filled, an applicant must be in the hired state. So once an applicant's in hired and the Authorizer 2 moves that posting to filled, that's when the case is closed out in ROCS, and those rejection emails go out to the individuals who are in the email at filled state. So the last step that someone does is they move your applicant to hired, and the Authorizer 2 moves that specific posting to filled. You can see on the training documents, there's some notes explaining the applicant workflow, but there's also step-by-step guides. So when an applicant reviewer goes in, it shows them step-by-steps how they review, how they answer questions if there's any questions, how they see an individual's documents, And lastly, how they move someone forward in the system. The last thing I just want to make note of, if you have any questions, please reach out to either myself or Tanisha. We're more than happy to help. If you have any questions more on the business process, how things are approved, you could reach out to academic labor relations or faculty affairs. They're still handling those requests when it's around the business process or how it should flow. But anything systematically, if you can't access a request, if you can't edit a request, please reach out to me and Tanisha. If you need access to a specific role, we're more than happy to set you up with that. Right now, if you have any questions, that's the end of the initial presentation. I will read the questions and answer them. I'm just going to bring it up. Okay, so if you have any questions, you may use the question feature on your screen, and I'll read it and answer them. If not, this is the end of the presentation. Like I said, we recorded this, so it's been recording the whole time. We'll get this out on the blog once we finalize it and convert it, and I assume we're going to put it on YouTube. And I'm not seeing any questions. All right. The first question is the difference between the authorizer 1 and authorizer 2 roles on the faculty side. So the difference between authorizer 1 and authorizer 2 is the authorizer 1 is the individual that's going to be inputting the request. So they're that person who goes in, they start it, they fill out all the fields, and they send it forward to the authorizer 2. The authorizer 2 is more of that last approver. So they review the request, they can make edits to it, but the authorizer 2 is the last step in the system. So authorizer 2 posts, they close, they fill it. So they're that role, they're the only role on the faculty side that can post the position. But authorizer 1 is more of the initiator, the preparer of the request. The authorizer 1 can't post it, they can't close it, they can't fill it. They're just the person who starts it, and they're the one who sends it forward to either budget or authorizer 2 for final approval and final posting. All right, second question is, can you add additional search committee members after the job is posted? Yeah, you can go into the request and make edits to it. However, only the authorizer 2 will be able to do that because only the owner can make changes to it once it's posted. And the authorizer 2 is always going to be the owner at the posted state because they're the individual who moves it to post it. So you can add search committee members, you can add applicant reviewers, but it's just individuals with that authorizer 2 role. So you can go into the request and make any updates. But yeah, you can add search committee members after a posting has been posted to the job board. But just remember, only the authorizer 2 role can do that. Any other questions? And like I said, if this is the end of the presentation, so if you don't have any questions or if you don't want to stick around, please feel free to leave. I thank you guys for coming. I appreciate it. We're going to do more of these in the future, so keep an eye out. We'll send out an email every time we do a webinar. All right. Thank you guys for coming. If you have any questions in the future, please, like I said, you can reach out to the ROCS Administrator Hotline, which is 848-932-4444. Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.